And now, welcome to 7 Questions with Emmy.
Brought to you by Timberline Home, whose showroom in Idaho Falls is waiting for you to explore. Hi!
Emmy!
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Mike, this is Nate again.
Hey,
Emmy's
Nate.
dad. Your mom was on, but she was having a problem hearing and then she vanished. So
Oh.
I'm not sure what happened.
Well, it looks like she just popped back up.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Yeah. You know how it is, Emmy, when you get very, very old.
yeah.
You know how it is.
Can you hear us?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi. It's been so long.
Hey, it's nice to see you again, Emmy. My goodness, you've almost grown up since I last saw you.
Yeah. It's been like 2 or 3 years.
It has. It's been a couple of years. Now you tell me I still look young.
Yes, you do still look
Oh.
young.
Tell me I still look young,
You
Emmy.
still look young. You guys are
Younger than-
aging backwards. You must have good genetics.
Oh, I like this little girl.
Like Dorian Gray,
Yeah.
or Benjamin Button.
Are you guys ready? Okay.
I'm ready. I think I'm ready now that I can hear you and you can hear me.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to 7 Questions with Emmy. I'm Emmy Eaton, and my guests today might look familiar to you. I spoke with them 4 years ago, and they are some of my all-time favorite guests. Mike Rowe has hosted many hit programs, including Dirty Jobs and Returning the Favor, and the hit podcast, The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe. His mom, Peggy Rowe, is America's favorite grandmother and has written several amazing books. Her newest one is called Oh No, Not the Home. So Mike and Peggy, it is so great to see you again.
It's great to see you, Emmy.
I
It
got
is
checked
fun
out of
to
school
be
for
here.
this, so it's a bonus. Are
2
you
for
ready?
1.
Are you ready to get started with the questions?
I'm good.
ready.
Okay, Peggy, this one's for you. So what made you decide to write another book, and what is this one about?
You know, Emmy, if you're a writer, you just have to write. You can't not write. If I'm not writing, I'm kind of miserable. So about 3.5 years ago, my husband and I moved to a senior living facility. It's a place where we have an apartment and we live with about 2,000 other people. It's a very large facility. And I don't have to cook anymore. They give us our meals, they take care of us. It's a lovely place. So we moved here about, I guess it's been almost 4 years ago now. Well, it was my idea to move, not my husband's. And when I said to him, John, let's move into Oakcrest, this, senior living facility. And his response was, oh, no, not the home. He did not want to move here, but I kind of talked him into it. And we did move here, and he's been quite happy. But since moving here, I've discovered that there are so many stories here, so many really good stories. And as a writer, I just have to tell the stories. So
Yeah.
I've written a lot of stories. I think there are 16 chapters in my new book. And so I talk about our lives here at the home, the people I've met, and their stories.
And how is John doing?
John is doing very well, thank you. He was sick last winter. He was very sick, but he has come around, and guess where he is right now? He's outside playing bocce ball
Oh, good.
on a bocce team.
That's
But
good.
he's doing well, thank you.
Mike, what did you think when your mom told you that she was writing Oh No, Not the Home? And were you worried that she might share some embarrassing facts about you?
Well, first of all, I thought it was great. Every time my mom writes a book, she outdoes herself. And I always think the last one, well, how's it going to get better than that? So, I thought it was, how old are you now, Mom? 130?
Uh-huh. No, I'll be 87 in January.
She'll be 87, right? So obviously I'm very proud of my mom. No, I'm not afraid that she's going to write anything that will embarrass me, Emmy, because she's already written everything to embarrass me. There's really no other stories left. I've been embarrassed in every way a son can be embarrassed. Honest, my first thought, here I'll show you. When she wrote her first book, this one called About My Mother, um, she asked me to write the foreword. And I said, okay, of course, I would love to write the foreword. So I did. I didn't know she was ever going to write another book, but a couple years later, she wrote this thing called About Your Father. And she said, Michael, would you write the foreword again? I'm like, Mom, I don't know. I mean, I already wrote like this first book actually has two forewords in it. I wrote both of them. That's how much I had to say. So this was a stretch, you know. And then she wrote this third book, Vacuuming in the Nude and Other Ways to Get Attention. And she said, Michael, would you write the foreword? I'm like, Mom, I can't, there's nothing left to say. That's me on the back cover trying to write the foreword, right? So when she told me she was going to write this new one, I knew what was coming. She said, you got to write the foreword. So I did. And that's all I do anymore, Emmy. That's what I do with my life now. I just sit around and I wait for my mom to write a new book so I can write the foreword.
Well, maybe now we can start a new segment where I just interview you guys every week. So then you have more than just wait to write the foreword.
You know what? It's important to stay busy. So yes, I'll do that every week.
This question's for both of you. So does your family have any special traditions that you can share with me?
Hmm.
Mike, I'll let you start with that one because growing up in this family, you might remember traditions that we have had and continue.
You'll be better with the traditions because really the truth is, Emmy, we're not what you call occasion people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like obviously we have birthdays, but nobody really cares. And yeah, like we pretend to care, but in my family, it's like, you know, my mom, like on my birthday, it's more important for me to call my mom because I wouldn't be here without her.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for being born. And I think, that's something that my parents taught my brothers and I. We're not big on occasions. We respect traditions, certainly the big ones. Christmas is always a big deal in our family. Music is a big deal. But I think for me, we had a tradition of trying to scare each other to death. And I don't know how this happened, but we were really, really dangerous with each other growing up. Like people would crawl, like my brother would crawl under my bed and wait for hours for me to come home. And then he'd wait for me to start to sleep, and then he'd start to shake the bottom of the bed and scream earthquake. These kinds of things. I would I would scare my dad sometimes, and he'd be trying to light his pipe, and he'd blow ashes all over the place and grab his heart. My mother really didn't like it when we did that, but she was the real culprit. I remember one night I came home. It was very late. I was still living at home, and I used to live in a basement. And I went into the basement, and I started to get ready for bed, and I turned around, and there was something in my bed that made me scream, Emmy, and jump so high I hit my head on the ceiling. My mother had found a mannequin, half of the torso of a mannequin somebody had thrown away in the garbage, and she brought it home, and she had a bandana on her head, and she had tucked this thing into my bed. So when I turned around at about 2 in the morning, I saw what looked like a woman wearing a bandana lying in my bed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was like growing up with America's favorite grandmother.
Listen, Emmy, I only did it because he had it coming. He loved to scare people. The children knew better than to scare me. I just couldn't tolerate it. One night, my husband, Mr. John, was sitting on the sofa reading a book. and it was summertime, and behind him were two windows they were open, but there were screens. And he was sitting, I don't remember what the book was, but all three of our children gathered outside. It was dark on the other side of that screen. And they got as close to the screen as they could, and they just screamed. Well, my poor husband jumped up and I mean, his head looked like it was going to touch the ceiling, jumped up, threw the book in the air. Well, Mike's dad has an amazing tolerance for being teased and scared. He is wonderful. He grew up in a family of 8 children. And so there was lots of teasing. Me, not so much. Well, the children came in the door, and I thought, oh boy, there's going to be hell to pay. Oh, heck to pay. And do you know what Mr. John did? He laughed and he said, well, that was a good one, guys, but I'm going to get you back.
How did
And
he
boy,
get them back?
Well, there was one night. Gee, Mike, do you remember how he got you back?
I do. He didn't get us all back at the same time,
Oh, it was one at a time.
because we were very rarely in the same place at the same time. But I came home. I was in the Boy Scouts and I had been camping for 5 or 6 days and I hadn't had a shower and I was tired. And my parents weren't going to be home until much later that evening. I got home early afternoon, so I had the house to myself. And I got in the shower and I was so tired. I was just standing there as the warm water bounced off my face and just thinking about going to bed early. And I was so relaxed. Well, my parents came home early and I didn't hear them. And my father let himself into the bathroom and I think probably took care of business while he was in the bathroom. I didn't hear him. I was in the shower. But then before he left, he grabbed the shower curtain and yanked it to the side and said, "We're home." I fell flat on my back in the shower and he
Oh,
laughed. He laughed and walked out of the bathroom.
oh
He
my.
got me good.
I thought you were gonna say
That
that
was a good one.
they actually were home, but they didn't tell you, and then he was gonna like jump out and or something while you were.
Emmy,
Nope.
I guess it was a
Nope. It
tradition.
wasn't that. Sometimes they were really elaborate, but sometimes you just would take advantage of the fact that you knew the other person didn't know you were there. I One night he came home from a church meeting and I was sitting in the kitchen in the living room, Mom. It was dark. And I'd been sitting there reading and I turned off the light because I was going to come into the kitchen, but I didn't get up for some reason. I saw the lights come up the driveway and I'm just sitting there in the pitch dark and Dad came into the living room and he sat down in a chair probably 5 feet away from me and he didn't see me in the shadows. And he took out his pipe and he's humming to himself. That's how you know he thinks he's alone. He's like hum bum 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 bum. And he takes out his pipe and he loads it up with this tobacco. It was called Borkum Riff. It's the stuff he used to smoke. Bum 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 bum. Loading up his pipe and he takes his lighter and he lights it. And when he lights it, he sees that I'm sitting right in front of him. And at the same second he lit it, I said, "Hi, Dad." And he fell backwards and he blew through the pipe and all the flame and all the ash flew in the air. Tobacco went everywhere. I laughed. Oh, God, I laughed for hours on that one.
But you got him back. Very shortly after that, we were out square dancing one evening and didn't get home until after midnight. And Dad walked into the kitchen. You guys were long asleep. Walked into the kitchen, took off his coat, opened the closet door, and there you stood, just looking out at him, and he jumped. Oh, so Emmy, I guess that is a tradition. I never thought of it.
Yeah.
Mm. I think I think it's kept you alive all these years. I think it's had the exact opposite effect. I think when you go through life knowing that at any moment your husband or your wife or your kids is going to come flying out of a closet screaming at you. I think it keeps you on your toes.
You make it sound terrible. You know, Mike, when you were little, I mean, a toddler, for your first Christmas, we bought you a Jack in the Box, just a pretty little metal Jack in the Box with pictures all around. And I
Yeah.
remember the first time we showed it to you. Da, 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 da. Well, when we got to Pop Goes the Weasel, the top flew out. You screamed and you cried. I felt really
I
badly
think I
about
filled my diaper. I kind of remember that. You guys started it. You got me a Jack in a Box when I was 3. I haven't been right since. That's when I got my stutter, I think.
Peggy, is there anything that you've done over your life? Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Sorry. Um, so you've done a lot over your life. Is there anything that you still hope to accomplish?
You know, Emmy, I've been writing my entire adult life. And when I first started writing, I wrote fiction for children. And one of those fiction books I really have loved through the years. I've never forgotten it. In fact, I have it here in a folder. My goal is to bring that book to life, make it better, because I am a much better writer now than I was back then. But I've been writing nonfiction and I've been writing memoirs and humor. This book is a little different, and it's always been near and dear to my heart, maybe because it was my first real attempt. I got a lot of
Is this
rejection.
the Irwin Beazle thing?
It is the
That,
transformation of
yeah,
Irwin.
the transformation of Irwin Beazle.
It's right here in a folder, and it needs some work. Like I say, I'm a better writer now than I was back then, but it's such a good story, and it's a story that is relevant for any time.
Mike can write
It-
the foreword.
oh,
Ah,
hey,
you're
God
killing
damn
me.
it. I hadn't even thought of that.
I'm not writing the forward for the transformation of Irwin Beazle.
Well, it's a I think of it as a middle grade book. So anybody who can read chapters would probably enjoy this book.
I would read it.
That would be great. It does have some humor in it, but it deals with a lot of issues that kids that age deal with. And really, I think even young adults might find it interesting. Has some really interesting characters.
If Mike won't write the foreword, I can always write it for you.
Hey, by the time I finish it, you probably will be old enough to write a foreword.
So I have the same question for you, Mike. What is something that you really hope to do in the next few years?
Well, I have a contract with a publisher and I owe that publisher a book and I was supposed to deliver it probably 3 years ago, but I got busy. And, unlike my mom, I've got a lot of different plates that are spinning. I got a couple of TV shows, and I got a podcast. Um, and I have arrangements and obligations with a bunch of different companies, so I didn't get around to that book. So that's one thing I gotta get that done because I said I would, and I have a contract. But the thing I really want to do, I've got this foundation that I've been running now for 16 years. And it's called Mike Rowe, and it's really um, an attempt to get more people trained to do the sorts of jobs that make our civilization work, like plumbing and welders and electricians. My granddad, my mom's father, was an electrician. And so, Dirty Jobs, that show I worked on for a long time, was kind of a love letter to those trades and those kinds of workers. And my foundation has been doing a lot of that work too. So I guess my answer would be I would like to I'd like to help close the skills gap that we have in this country. And I would like to give more scholarships to people who want to learn a skill that's in demand. So I'm pretty excited about how far the foundation's come. And I guess that's my answer. We've given away $12 million in scholarships so far. I would like to give away a lot more than that over the next few years while
That's
I'm
really
writing my
cool.
book.
And Mike, a few months ago, you released a movie called Something to Stand For. Have you ever had to stand up for something while others around you were staying silent or felt differently than you?
Wow. Well, yes, but not like the people that we featured in that movie, our founding fathers and heroes, in our country almost always are men and women who wind up doing the hard thing, standing up for something that they truly believe in, whether it's civil rights or the Constitution or any number of things. I never had to do anything like that, but I do remember when Dirty Jobs first went on the air. Um, Nobody thought that it would work, and over at the network, they really they really didn't want it to work because they didn't want their fans to like that show. It was just a little thing we did on the side. But when it got on the air, people really loved it. But the network put it on the shelf because they just didn't want people to love it. So I spent a long time, Emmy, trying to convince my bosses and production companies that Dirty Jobs was more than just exploding toilets, right? Or, me crawling through a sewer or things like that.
Yeah.
It was more important. So, it took me a year uh, to get that show on the air. And then once we got it on the air, we had another big conversation about the importance of a behind the scenes camera. Do you know what that means?
Kind of.
So when you make a TV show, you have a crew, and that crew of people usually either is in charge of audio or a camera, and they're all doing their job. And those people are never in the show. They're the ones that make the show. If you have a behind the scenes camera, then that person stands off to the side in a nice wide shot and films the whole process of making the show. And that had never been done before. And the idea of taking that footage and showing the viewer my crew as they filmed the show and did their job, that was something that was really important to me. And I believed it was something that would make the show better. Oh, we had many fights about that. But eventually they gave in, and the behind the scenes camera became the most important part of the show.
Yeah. Peggy, what was your favorite meal to make for Mike, Scott, and Phil when they were growing up? And do you still cook for them when you're all together?
Oh, yes, when we're all together, I make something really special called reservations. Here at the home, they have three big dining rooms and about five different restaurants, and we have our choice where to eat. So when the family comes, oh, I make special reservations for them. But growing up, I cooked very simple foods. I didn't do anything real fancy. Um, I'll tell you, Friday nights, the children got what they wanted. They ate fish sticks, baked beans, mac and cheese. Friday nights were special in our house. I guess that's kind of a tradition too. Um, During the week, there was no TV in our house. The children were not allowed to watch TV. They used to call me the TV. What'd you call me, Mike? The TV? Hmm.
I don't think it's appropriate in front of an
Well, I
11-year
don't,
old to
that's
say.
what I'm trying to think of another word. But anyway, yes, I was heavy-handed about the TV, and even my husband would say, I don't know why we can't watch a little news during dinner. But it was, on a weeknight. So Friday nights were special. Friday nights, I cooked what the children wanted, and they got to watch television and have popcorn and soda. And we didn't have soda otherwise.
Sometimes, Emmy, she made breakfast for dinner. That was my favorite.
Yeah,
Yes.
we make that sometimes, but Dad doesn't like it, so we always make it when he's gone.
Oh, he doesn't like it. Well, yeah, my family loved pancakes and scrapple or sausage, eggs, stewed apples, stuff like
Yeah.
that for dinner. Yeah, that was a favorite.
Okay, now I have some bonus questions.
Good.
Okay, this one's for you, Mike. So when I interviewed you last time, you told me a story that you had never shared before about your embarrassing moment on TV. My grandma laughed so hard that she started crying. So can you share another funny moment you've had in public and maybe it'll make her cry again?
You
Yeah,
want me to
make
make your
Grandma
grandmother cry? Okay. What was the story? Oh, did I tell you? Was I at QVC and did I go in the bathroom?
Yep, it was, and you were singing. Yes.
Yes, I was singing while I was sitting on the toilet and my microphone was open.
Yeah.
And so everybody heard me. That
Yeah.
made your grandmother cry, huh?
Yes.
Oh. Well, this is awkward, Emmy. I have many stories about some things that happened to me on live TV. And when you're 18, I'll tell them all to you. Um, but I'm trying to think of a nice G-rated Oh, I was at a rodeo years ago filming an episode of a show called Somebody's Gotta Do It. And I was working with the rodeo clowns. And man, that is a scary job. I came very close to getting trampled by these bulls. And I was really very excited and nervous throughout this whole shoot. And the reason I think that is relevant is because the guy who ran the rodeo came over, and right before the audience came in for the actual show, he asked me if I would like to sing the Star Spangled Banner. And I said, "Well, sure. I'd be happy to do that." And there was no orchestra or there was no accompaniment, so I'd be singing it a cappella, meaning unaccompanied. But I made a fatal mistake. There were probably 15,000 people there. And if you're going to sing the national anthem, Emmy, in public, you have to really understand how your voice works because that song is tough to sing. It's very rangy, right? So you start low and it gets high. So the key for me, because I don't have a very high voice, I have to start down here like, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early? And if I do that, I can get all the way through. So when I get to the end, it's like, on the land of the free and the home of the brave. I can sing that right. I can sing it loud.
Yeah.
But I was so excited and I was so nervous from almost getting impaled by the horns on the bull that I didn't start, oh, say. I started more like, oh, say, can you see? By the time I got to the end of the song, it was so high. I was just screaming. And the people in the audience were looking at me like I was nuts, and my cameraman was confused. I mean, it was so bad. It was like, free and the home. I mean, it was awful. And it was loud. And, the people in the audience couldn't even sing along. It was too high for them. So I guess what I would tell you is always be careful when you start that song. Also, happy birthday. If you start happy birthday too high, nobody in the room is going to be able to finish it.
Yeah.
Not that I would know, Emmy, because we don't celebrate birthdays in my mother's house.
You'll start
nobody
having to give
there.
your mom presents on your birthday.
Yes. That's the only sensible thing to do. You send flowers on your birthday.
Yes. This question's for both of you. So I live in Idaho and we're known for our potatoes. What is your favorite way to have a potato?
You know, potatoes are one of my favorite foods. I like potatoes fixed anyway, mashed, baked, twice baked. And here at the home, they serve something called wedge potatoes that are delicious. Um, and they are just that. They're cut in the shape of a wedge. And I think they are baked and they have a coating on them. They're my favorite. They're my favorite here. But really, potatoes are great.
Yes, we have some, there's a store that serves like food and we have a store and they have wedge potatoes. They're so good.
They are. They're my favorite.
What's
I
your
love them
favorite?
too.
Yeah.
The old style McDonald's French fries that they did in duck fat are the best things ever. But I don't eat potatoes much anymore, Emmy, because I'm doing something called no sugar, no grain. I'm trying to get the sugar and a lot of the carbohydrates out of my diet because they make me swell up like a tick when I eat too many of them. So potatoes are not something I eat a lot of anymore, but I love them. And in fact, I did have one. I just had a simple baked potato the other night. It was delicious. And I like to bake them twice too, Mom. I heard if you smash them and then bake them and then bake them again, that somehow they're not nearly as bad for you. Not that they're
And they're
bad.
just so delicious.
You
They're
just
so
have to
good.
tell yourself they're not bad and then eat them.
You know what I saw on Dirty Jobs once, Emmy? It reminded me because there's a purple square behind your head. I found a guy who was growing purple potatoes. His name was Rocky, and he worked in Gunnison, Colorado. And he was sort of a scientist, and he could grow potatoes of all different colors. And he had all these purple potatoes that he had grown. He was very proud of those, and they tasted pretty good. He, Purple doesn't really taste like anything now that I think about it. It's just the
That
color
was
of
a
them.
good episode. I remember that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you said the purple potatoes tasted just like any other potatoes.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Didn't
I would have
affect.
liked to seen the French. I wish you would have made some French fries out of the purple potatoes.
Oh
That would
yeah,
have been
that would have
interesting.
been cool.
Yeah.
This question's for both of you, and sadly it's the last one.
Oh no.
But can you share a piece of advice that might help me and other kids my age, both of you?
If you were to ask me for advice, and you just have, I guess I would have two pieces of advice. One is be truthful. This is so earnest, so sincere. I feel silly saying it, but it really is important. We live in a time where, you know, people who don't tell the truth are all around us. And it's up to us to decide, who we're going to believe and who we're not going to believe. But if you tell the truth, you really can't go too wrong. And that's really important. And I think it makes you feel better in the end. And then you don't have to worry about, oh, what did I say before? Because I want to say the same thing now. And I just stick with the truth. And also, and this sounds silly too, but listen to your parents because nobody loves you like your parents do. And they want the best for you no matter what. And that applies to people of any age, Mike. Always listen to your parents because they know best.
When you say listen to them, do you mean do what they tell you to do or just hear them? And
Well, hear them and take into consideration their wishes and because they do have your best interest at heart.
hmm,
Yeah. They might, and there might be times when they're not right, but at least respect them and hear what they have to say to
very wise. Very wise, Mom. I
you.
still listen to you by and
Mhm,
large.
mhm. Most of the time.
So I would say, Emmy, that that's probably pretty good advice. And I don't give advice much. People ask me a lot of questions, general questions, and I think that there there are very few things that you can say that are true for everyone all of the time, right? We call it cookie cutter advice or one size fits all advice. It's like college, for a long time, a lot of parents told their kids and a lot of guidance counselors told their kids that the best path for the most people would be to go to college. And college is a great thing. I went and it helped me a lot, but it's not for everybody, So I always like to know who I'm talking to specifically before I offer any advice because, you're not like every other 11-year-old girl out there. And
Yeah.
you might need to hear something different than somebody else. And I just don't know what that is. So I'm careful with advice, but since my mom talked about telling the truth, and I think she's right, it's very important to be honest with the people around you. But the first thing I think you need to do is to be honest with yourself. That's the first thing. And I think about this a lot when I listen to musicians that I love and comedians who really make me laugh and writers who really uh, inspire me and motivate me. You know, I don't think that those people sit down with the goal of amusing me. I think they sit down first and foremost with the goal of amusing themselves or entertaining themselves or writing in a way that pleases them. And so it's a tricky thing to express, but I know my mom believes this too because she would never publish a book that she didn't love. So you can't please the people around you until you please yourself first.
Thank
That's
you
my
so much
advice.
for talking with me today. That was really good advice, both of you.
Well, we'll send you a bill in the mail.
Well, so I'm so happy to see you again. And remember to go. When does your book come out? Is it already out?
It comes out tomorrow.
Oh, it comes
The
out
15th,
tomorrow. So,
October the
or
15th.
Time they watch this.
by the time people watch this, it'll be out. So October, no, yeah, October 15th. It's
Yes.
so go buy her new book called Oh No, Not the Home. I'm so excited. Hopefully I can read it. So
It's got an amazing forward, Emmy. You're gonna love the forward.
I can read it
Oh,
and be like, I know these people.
you know them, and you can get all of her books over on my website. That's mikerowe.com/mom's book. We have them all there too. See, that's what a good son does, Emmy. He sells his mother's books.
Now you'll have to switch the website thing to Mom's book and Mike's forward.
That's not a bad idea.
Thank
Well,
Not
you
a
so
bad
much.
idea.
I hope you guys have a great day.
well, thank you, Emmy.
Thank
This
you,
was
Emmy.
fun.
This
I'll do it
was
again in 2 years if you'd like.
okay. I'll gladly take that, and we'll let you know if my grandma cries.
Please do. And when you're 18, call me. I got some stories that'll make you laugh.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, new 7 questions interviews are posted every Thursday. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Love you guys. Bye. 7 Questions with Emmy, brought to you by Timberline Hope, whose showroom in Idaho Falls is waiting for you to explore.